we're getting more like maybe 100 or 150, but the size is much greater. The understanding is much greater. The mainstream, they haven't really woken up yet, but there is a subset of people probably listening to Rick and Alistair and you, Dunnigan, who are waking up. And hopefully it's not too late for the rest of the public.
Andy Schectman dropped a bombshell, and this may be one of his most important interviews yet. He dives deep into what's happening behind the scenes in the gold and silver markets, exposes risks the mainstream ignores, and makes bold predictions you'll want to hear before the year ends. He's not just talking prices, he's talking power, money flows, and the forces that could reshape how we think about wealth and currency. Stay locked in, because what Andy reveals in this interview could change the way you see everything about precious metals. So let's start the video and keep watching it till the end.
I think I heard the majority of the question. There was an awful lot of feedback in there. But in any case, if you're speaking about change in the interest rate environment, I don't know, I find it very interesting that we see the chief investment officer for Morgan Stanley shift from a 60-40 allocation to a 60-20-20, 60% stock, 20% bond, 20% precious metals. Michael Hartnett, the chief investment officer for one of the investment, I think he's chief, for Bank of America, just came out with a 25-25-25-25% strategy. Again, you're seeing big money advisors, money managers, or investment officers reallocate their clients' portfolios away from a 40% allocation to U.S. Treasuries. They are pivoting into what would have been unimaginable. As Rick has often said, and I borrowed that statement from him for so long, 0.5% from Joe and Jane Sixpack to the Harvard Endowment Fund, and I caught the last part before I jumped on here where the Harvard Endowment Fund actually did buy some gold and silver. But we are beginning to see, I think, the money managers or the investment officers from these large institutions pivot the way that the central banks seem to have been doing now for at least a year or two, where they have been shedding U.S. Treasuries in favor of gold, which not only has outperformed the U.S. Treasury market, in fact, it's doubled the performance of the 10-year Treasury over the last 25 years. But look at last year, where gold was up north of 40% and the U.S. Treasury 4.5%, or this year, where you have the U.S. Treasury three-quarters of the way through the year, call it up 3%. Yet the dollar's down 11% and gold is up nearly 50%. So we are witnessing a pivot away from traditional forms of investment, traditional ideology, into something that we have been talking about that was fringe. And you never heard money managers talk about anything greater than a 5% allocation to precious metals. Now, we always knew that was underweighted, certainly, but to see the CIO from some of the biggest commercial banks on the planet start to do this tells you that we are moving towards some form of a new understanding, appreciation, or integration of gold and silver into people's portfolios. And quite frankly, if they would have been listening to guys like Alistair or Rick a long time ago, these moves would have been made years ago when there was still a tremendous amount of upside to be made. Now, not to say there isn't now, but how much of the move has been missed, I guess only time will tell. Actually, I don't think that it's been too much in comparison to where I think it is going. But I think the most important thing to take away from this is that you're seeing some of the biggest and influential institutions here in the United States rethink their investment ideology. It's an interesting time, and I hope the general public catches on before it's too late, because I can tell you on the retail side of things, we've seen very sophisticated big money jump in with both feet over the last month or so. Business has been extraordinary. It hasn't been what it was like in 2021, January, February, silver squeeze, where we were getting 500 orders a day. Now we're getting more like maybe 100 or 150, but the size is much greater. The understanding is much greater. The mainstream, they haven't really woken up yet, but there is a subset of people probably listening to Rick and Alistair and you, Dunnigan, who are waking up. And hopefully it's not too late for the rest of the public. Certainly, I think this is a change that is long overdue, and one that I welcome very much. So hopefully I understood your question well enough with that feedback and answered it appropriately. Well, I think the biggest indictment against the system is, well, there are a couple. Number one would be the cross-border payment system, the renminbi cross-border payment system that was the M-Bridge. And this system, which is operational, has already been connected to 11 countries in Southeast Asia, which in and of themselves have twice the population of the United States, about 800 million people. And they also have taken over as China's largest trading partner by far. They represent almost 40% of global GDP. They've also connected several Middle Eastern countries, 5 or 6 of them, into this system. And I think when you take a look at the moves that they are making, it is the development of multi-jurisdictional vaults throughout what ultimately, I believe, will be the Belt Road Initiative. The first vault is completed in Hong Kong. The Shanghai Metals Exchange is expanding their reach. The first one is done in Hong Kong. And what it basically means now is that digital yuan is immediately convertible into gold in the Shanghai Exchange in Hong Kong, if you'd like, for delivery without having to convert first back to US dollars. Now, the second exchange, ironically, is being built in Saudi Arabia. Now, if you go back to the genesis of the M-Bridge platform, Saudi Arabia was the 5th participant, full participant in M-Bridge. They are now building one inside of Saudi Arabia. Now, I listened to an interview with the gentleman who developed BRICS Pay, which is the cross-border payment system, B2B, business to business, retail, in essence, small bank to small bank, or business to the public. It's like a credit card, in essence, that will connect any of the folks who use the BRICS Pay system. Now, we have to understand that once maybe the biggest move in all of this, that a lot of the naysayers would say the BRICS aren't big enough, they're not substantial enough. And I understand people why they would say that. Independent of their size as is, which represents, I don't know, close to 50% of global GDP. But when Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, came out and said, we're opening this up to everyone except the West, except the dollar, the pound, and the European Union, the bells went off, and they should for everyone. And so the gentleman who is setting up BRICS Pay, the developer, said, yes, we are in the process of right now rolling this along with BRICS Bridge, which is central bank to central bank. These are being opened up and rolled out through the Belt Road Initiative right now. That's 75% of human population. And then you throw in the other institutions like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Eurasian Economic Union, along with the BRICS. These are all very closely tied entities. They're not all part of BRICS, but they will all be able to settle on this cross-border payment system that settles in 7 seconds, free from SWIFT interference at a 98% reduction in fees. But the kicker to it all is that, yes, they all would use their own cross-border payment central bank currencies, the digital currencies, that the majority of the countries in the world are already developing or have developed. The key is that they will be able to settle imbalances in gold, and ultimately, through a series of multi-jurisdictional vaults that started in Hong Kong, is now being built in Saudi Arabia, and then through the rest of the Belt Road, so that they can settle imbalances in gold or completely settle in gold. I think it is a trend that is growing with legitimacy by the day, and I think to underestimate it is a mistake. I think that that's kind of what they're counting on. I guess we'll see how it all plays out. This is not a common currency. This is a common settlement currency, with gold replacing not the dollar, but really what stands behind the dollar, the trust that we've lost. Anyways, that's what I think about the BRICS, and I'm happy to keep going if you want.
Andy Schectman once again delivers the kind of insight you won't hear anywhere else, connecting gold, silver, and the fate of the dollar in a way only he can. Whether his predictions unfold exactly as he says or not, one thing's certain: the world is changing fast, and those who pay attention now will be the ones ready later. If you found this video valuable, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss these crucial updates. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Everyone deserves to know what's really happening behind the scenes.